minutes. So let's get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Stu. Okay, everyone can hear me okay? Okay, great. My name is Lisa Gonzalez-Getz. I'm a Social Security disability attorney. I specialize in Social Security disability and VA law. Okay, we work nationwide, but our office is headquartered in Boca Raton, Florida. I've been speaking for MS for a few years because these are the kind of impairments that are very difficult to document and take a long time with the progression of a disease before you get diagnosed with disability, and therefore it makes a lot of people apply for benefits and get denied and appeal. And so just as a show of hands tonight, I'd like to see how many people are already on Social Security disability. Okay, and how many people are applying for Social Security disability? Okay. So that gives me kind of an idea of how to take the conversation. I'll talk very little about the application process because most of you are already on disability. I'll talk to you about the changes or the upcoming possible changes with Social Security. So with regard to the application process, I would say most people get denied at the initial level, at the reconsideration level, and most people get approved at the request for hearing level, which is when they actually go in front of an administrative law judge and they have an opportunity to present their case and talk to the judge and explain to them how they feel and present records from your medical doctors, right? But then there are a lot of judges that are more so in the last 4 or 5 years that have been denying cases when you actually appear before a judge. And those cases can also get appealed. Very recently, I spoke to an attorney who had been doing this for 16 years and had never, ever appealed a case from an administrative law judge. So that was a shocker to me because I thought every attorney, if you have a hearing and it didn't go well and you lost your case, but you had a good case, a merit to your claim, an impairment that prevents you from working, you could appeal that case at the Appeals Council in Virginia. And this attorney who had been doing this for 16 years had never appealed the judge's decision. So that is a point of contention with me. But even at the Appeals Council, if you get denied, you may have the opportunity to appeal that case to federal district court, okay? And in Florida, I think now it's an application process and you're admitted into federal court. When I did this 24 years ago, we actually had to sit for a test to get licensed for federal court. But now I think pretty much anybody who applies and pays a fee of $200 or $400 can get admitted. After the federal district court, in very rare cases where cases of Social Security have been denied, those cases actually get taken to the Supreme Court of the United States of Florida. That's what makes law. And that law is what helps every individual get benefits at the lower level. Once you have that law, any attorney can use it, and we can say it's been proven that if we have this documentation by your treating physician, you should be entitled to benefits, and those cases get bounced back. So if you've been denied, you know it's a long haul. It takes 12 to 36 months to get benefits at this stage right now. In the state of Florida, we have judges from Tennessee that are actually taking video hearings in Miami and Fort Lauderdale in an effort to expedite the case. And it's a combination of more cases than ever. It's a combination of more denials than ever, so people are appealing it. And it's also a combination of federal employees doing less work than ever. So my office of adjudication and review in Fort Lauderdale, as an example, had a period of time where they were not taking hearings on Fridays because a lot of the staff and the judges were working out of their home. So that cut 4 days a week of hearings in a month, which is almost a week of hearings in a metropolitan area. So those things have really slowed down the process. Not nothing you can do about that. Somebody just now this evening said to me, you have to help me get the benefits quicker for my family member because they really need it. And I'm like, honestly, I can't make a difference other than win the case. I can only expedite a case on people that are dying or losing their home. And for that, we need documentation. So what's going to happen, that's a good segue into what's going to happen in the new administration. We're closely approaching a new administration. Everything that has to do with Social Security disability is a knee-jerk reaction with Washington, D.C., okay? It sounds tenuous. A lot of people get upset with me when I say contact your senator, contact your congressman, your representative. People think it's just a way that attorneys like to push people away from having an answer. But the truth is that when the government shuts down in DC, Social Security benefits get stopped. It's a federal program. So it's a nationwide federal program that actually services any person who's worked in this country, overseas included, that is disabled, right? So if a person is disabled and they live in any state or in any part of a U.S. territory, Guam, American Samoa, the Meridian Islands, or in South America or Europe, they have paid into the system and they're disabled, they qualify for benefits. If DC has a snowstorm and their offices are closed, anybody who's waiting for a check other than a person who's already on benefits is going to have a delay in their check. Anybody who's waiting for Social Security benefits or on a review, Social Security offices close with a snowstorm, with furlough, with budget cuts. Things happen. So it is a knee-jerk reaction, anything that happens in DC. I don't proclaim to be a fortune teller with what's going to happen, but I do anticipate that the system will be a lot more streamlined. And the hope is that it becomes more efficient. With that, I would say anybody who is currently on disability, make sure that you are getting your proper treatment. Make sure that you are getting your documentation from your doctor, that you're going to your doctor visits, that you're not missing them, that you're complaining about how you feel, that you document the medications that you're taking. The reason is if there are more reviews than ever before for people who are currently on disability, these reviews are done on paper, and Social Security has the right to ask you at any time, what's going on with your case? How are you feeling? Let me request your release so that I can get your medical records. And they will get the medical records and they will review. And if they can find a medical improvement, that's the lingo. If you have medically improved, they can take your benefits away. Now, has anybody here been reviewed by Social Security? 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Okay, so I would say that if we were to fast forward 12 months from now, we're going to have more raises of hands. Okay, now when you were reviewed for benefits, you have a choice. You have 10 days to appeal that review. To appeal that review and continue getting your benefits. You have 10 days. That's a very short amount of time. 10 days from when they send that letter, not from when you receive it. So all of a sudden you're on benefits. Let's say you're out of town and something comes in, 10 days passes, you're on a review status. If more than 10 days passed, your benefits are going to get cut. Okay? The standard for review is medical improvement. Okay, so we're going to talk about what that means. First, I want to talk about the 10 days. If you appeal a medical review within 10 days, you will continue to receive your benefits. But if you subsequently lose your case, you will owe that money back to Social Security. Okay? If you have a review and you do not appeal within the 10 days, or you stop receiving your monthly benefits, and you subsequently lose your appeal, you won't owe any money. If you win your appeal, that back pay will come to you. Is everybody clear with that? So the 10 days is very set in stone, and it has to do with whether or not you receive your benefits while they review you. Okay, so with regard to medical improvement, what does that mean? With MS, you see a lot of people that are finally receiving the proper treatment that they need when they win their case. They have the proper health insurance, they found the right doctors, they're receiving what they need in order to stabilize in their condition. So all of a sudden, instead of being so severe, they've stabilized. Social Security can, and many times they do interpret it as the fact that they stabilized is an improvement, but that's not correct. The law is stabilizing doesn't mean that your condition has necessarily gone away. It may have improved. However, you're still not able to maintain a job 40 hours a week consistently. So that may require you to come back in front of a judge and argue your case and show that even if you've maintained more activity now because you're taking better care of yourself, or you finally found a doctor or medication that's therapeutically helping you, you still have to show that you're not able to work 40 hours a week on a consistent basis. Okay, so I can go on and on and on about Social Security because everything is a trap door. Whether you work is a trap door, whether you are improving medically, that's a trap door. The changes in the system, the improvements with how much money you can make every month when you do work, part-time work, volunteer work, all of these things may be red flags for you in receiving Social Security benefits. So what I've found through the years of doing these speeches is that many times we have audiences that have a lot of questions about the actual application. This is what's happening to me, what's going on, how can I get help? Do I need an attorney? What if I can't afford an attorney? Those kind of questions. But with this crowd in particular, I think that the questions are more, I am on benefits, and if I am working or if I get reviewed, what do I do? Do I need an attorney if I get reviewed? What are the steps to take? So I'm going to I have 20 minutes to speak. Most of the time when I speak for an hour, and I go through the entire system. But based on the fact that this is a short program and it's Q&A, and we're putting in a lot of information in together in a small amount of time, I'm going to open it up for Q&A, not because I want to shorten my talk, but because I want to make sure that everybody's questions get answered, particularly right now when most of the cases that we're going to be looking are going to be reviews, not so much the application process. If it has to do with the application process, my suggestion is, one, whenever anybody tells you in life that you have a right to an attorney, you have a right to an attorney because they may take something away from you that you are entitled to. So you should use that right. Most people wonder, do I need an attorney? I can't afford one. Attorneys for Social Security disability are paid by statute, no more than $6,000, only on the win. And it's based on the retroactivity that a person receives. It's statutory, so you pay the same thing whether the person has experience or no experience. So my advice to anybody seeking an attorney in this area of law is, what percentage of your practice does Social Security disability? Not my neighbor's an attorney, my cousin, I have a family member, or I can't afford one. But really, if you do this, how many cases have you done and what percentage of your practice is it? So for example, for us, it's 99% of our practice. This is what we do. We get referrals from all kinds of other attorneys. We do know attorneys that dabble in it, but like I said before, the question is, if you were to get denied, then what happens with that appeal? And do they know how to do the appeal? It's much more difficult to get an appeal from a person who's been represented by an attorney other than themselves. So that would be the main question is, do you need an attorney? Absolutely. If you have an attorney and you can't afford one, really it's only on the win, so you can't afford not to have an attorney. An attorney that doesn't believe they can win your case won't take it. They won't get paid unless they win. Okay? And then what kind of a percentage of your practice do you do this? And where do you go? So Social Security is a federal practice, so it's not based in Florida or in a particular state. It's nationwide. So it's important to know how other circuits deal with Social Security and disability, what the standards of review are, because those kind of things help make an attorney better and a little more polished, refined on how to answer and cross-examine the questions posed by judges or medical doctors or vocational experts that are present at the hearing. So I can go at length into what goes on to developing a case and getting it ready for a hearing, but I think more than anything, I'd like to answer questions for anybody that may have currently benefits and they're concerned about what they're doing, what may be a risk, what they should be aware of or alarmed about. So I'm going to open it up to questions. Stu's not here, but I'll walk around with the microphone if need. Okay, they're getting the microphone. So I guess that's it for me right now, unless you guys have any specific questions for me.
All the way back.
Yep, thanks.
My legs are giving out.
Exercise, exercise. Yes. You need a Fitbit.
I need an extra moment anyhow. I'll turn on the mic.
I wanted to ask a question. I got my disability. I was denied the first time. I got a lawyer who didn't even show up to the court thing. He forgot, but I did win on my own. But he still got his $4,500 out of my case. My question is, it came up for review. I put it through. I did qualify again. How often are they going to go through? Because this time when I got approved for after they reviewed it, it said permanently disabled. Does that mean they're not going to review me possibly?
Well, that's a great question. Permanently disabled is defined by if you're disabled for 12 months or more. Any person receiving Social Security disability is considered permanently disabled. So permanently disabled has a lot of different connotations. For workers' comp, it's a percentage. For VA, it's a percentage. For a personal injury case, it's something else. Short-term disability, long-term disability. But for Social Security purposes, you are permanently disabled. That does not mean that they can't review you. It's a double negative. They can review you. They can review you anytime.
Okay.
The question is, how often do they review?
They told me every 2 years when I first was approved is the possibility, 2 to 3 years.
When were you first approved?
In 2013 is when I became disabled or noted, and they had given me a date for court like 3 years back, but I contacted our senator and they moved it up to 1 year from my date of disability. And I was approved pretty quick at that point. In fact, my lawyer was like, how did you get it moved up?
Have you been reviewed?
Yes, and I was approved again. So I was just, I guess, kind of concerned, how often do they review? Are they really sticklers on that, or does age really play into it? Someone told me if you're 50 or older.
Let me ask you a couple questions. When you got reviewed, did you appeal it within 10 days or not?
Yes.
Okay. So would you recommend that?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, when I actually was out of town when the thing came, so I had 2 days to go. So I sat in the Social Security office with the letter. I definitely recommend getting with some of the senators we have. They do push it for you. And I just did a simple why me type letter. Why I can't, I'm going to be homeless.
Okay.
This is ridiculous, 3 years. And it was bumped up so well.
Okay, so the reviews are coming on average every 4 years, but it does depend on your age. So if you're under age 54, chances are you could be reviewed a little more frequently than every 4 years. If you're over 54, it's supposed to be every 4 years. But sometimes, like the government, nothing is consistent. So you don't really know if it's going to be every 4 years or every 6 years. So my suggestion is always to have treatment, to document it, to take your medication, which you obviously need to take it, and just be really consistent with treatment so that whenever you do get a review, you can just request your records and send it in. That should be your first tier. And based on that, they should turn around and rubber stamp it. But they have a right to review you at any age. So I have people that are over age 65 that are being reviewed, that are already at the age of retirement, which we know is changing to 67 and 69 in some instances. So they are getting reviewed also. So it used to be only for younger individuals, anybody under 54, but no longer.
The other issue, before you go to the judge, make sure you have your own little spill set up to say, because my judge asked me if I was one of Jerry's kids, which is a totally different disease. He didn't know what multiple sclerosis was, so I had to explain it to him, which kind of surprised me, being that he would have the case in front of him for at least some period of time, I would think. But, and the other advice I would give to all of them out there is, a lot of times with MS, we feel good for today. It's our good. But when you're going to the doctor and you're telling them, I feel great all the time, that's what goes to Social Security in your record, saying, I feel great, I feel great, I feel great, versus, well, I have MS. This is what's going on.
So my suggestion with that would be, when we do go to doctors, the doctors will record your notes and say, you know, patient looks fine. They will document how you look, whether you, if you're a woman, if you're wearing jewelry, or if you have nail polish on, or how you're walking, how your level of concentration and attention is. And again, great versus stable. So the most important thing, and in this age of electronic recording, where doctors don't really have the time to take all these handwritten notes, would be to actually talk about what is great. So great is that today I was able to sit on a bench in the park. I was able to get out of the house. But I really spend 3 or 7 days a week at home. And this has been the first time in a week, a month, a year that I've been out. Be very descriptive about what great is and how many great days you have. Because you're right, if you just put in the note, if you just tell your doctor, I feel great, the medication's great, and the doctor writes it and doesn't see you for another 4 weeks, at the hearing, the judge will anticipate that great means you're doing great. 4 weeks ago, you were doing great. 4 weeks before that, you were doing great. So every day in between, you must have been doing great. So one of the things that I tell my clients is to make sure you keep a journal. Always keep a journal, because if you have a good day, a bad day, and it's recorded, then that shows into absenteeisms at work. So can a person work if they can't sustain a 40-hour week on a consistent basis? It's been clear through case law that 2 days a month or more precludes permanent employment. So that's the kind of thing that with a journal can get into a hearing. You had a tough experience because your attorney for some reason didn't show up. But likewise, you also had the mental capacity that you were able to advocate for yourself, which is rare. Most people that undergo impairments are depressed, frustrated, confused, have a low frustration tolerance, and that also comes into play when it comes into applying for disability, which in fact affects the ability to work. So all those things together, I've had judges that will see you be able to explain to him very clearly, you are not Jerry's kids, and educate them on MS, and the judge can turn around and say, you know what, you're not disabled. You explained to me something better than anybody else could. You're coherent. Maybe you can't physically do things, but maybe mentally you have the capacity to do some kind of work on a computer from a home or something a little more less physically involved. So those things can cut both ways. You were very lucky. Okay, anything else?
Excuse me. I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm getting to the age of retirement, and I thought that your disability rolled into the retirement, but you would just be receiving the amount of money that your disability has continued. You know what I'm saying? So I've got X number of dollars, and even though I made more, earlier, I'm not going to be able to access those funds.
So when you become disabled, you would be getting what you would be receiving at the age of retirement based on your disability earlier. So a 30-year-old, in theory, would be receiving what they would be entitled to at the age of 65 or 67, the age of retirement. Internally, they do switch you from one program to another.
So there wouldn't be a review then?
We have a new administration coming in a few days. I don't know what's going to happen. You know, we can't double dip. So without proclaiming any political position, you cannot say the age of retirement is 65, yet we're living longer. You can't say we're getting healthier, yet keep our age down. So something's going to probably give. And I've seen a little bit of documentation coming in on it, and I do believe that it's going to be fair game to review. I do believe so.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we got time for just 2 more questions, okay? I'm going to go there first because she raised her arm first.
Is it possible that someone has never been reviewed? I don't think she's ever been reviewed.
It is possible.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes the review comes in the form of a letter from Social Security asking you to sign a form, which is a medical release form, and they'll request the medical records. And based on looking at these records, they may choose not to review. Okay? There are also some pockets in the United States where they're just very overworked with claims that are pending, and they don't have the manpower to handle the reviews.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Last question. Swallow.
I was wanting to know, when I had my review done, I was very upset at the time because the date on the inside of the envelope and the date on the outside were 4 days apart. So I actually received my letter the day before the 10 days were up. So I took it to Social Security office raging. I also brought a copy of my disc that showed how many lesions were on my brain and everything. But anyway, I went to Social Security office right away, got that taken care of. Well, since then, I found out that I don't have MS. I just found that out this past week. Now, is that going to, is it possible that Social Security might review all the patients of the doctor that misdiagnosed a lot of people with MS?
Okay, so Stu, I know you want me to rush, but this is really important. Okay, first of all, that's good news. The issue is not the impairment, but how you feel. Okay, so very often people will say, I'm disabled because I have this diagnosis. And the diagnosis is not what affects you. It's how the illness is exacerbated in you. Okay, so would you be able to be reviewed? Absolutely. The review is as of the day that you're reviewed. So would they go back to the past? No, the review, they can't backtrack it. They can start from the date of the review forward. And then they could say, well, you don't have MS anymore. Your records are showing that you don't have it. So you're fine. You should be able to go back to work. And then the question is, I still have my lesions. I still have problems ambulating with mobility. I still have problems getting ready and getting through my day. I am not able to work. Okay, so it's not the diagnosis that disables us. Plenty of people with MS still work. It's how the illness affects us. Okay?
Thank you, Lisa. Now, for everybody that wants to know, let's thank Lisa first. Go ahead, thank you. First, we're going to have Dr. Gold up. But Lisa's going to still be here. She's going to be here for the night, all right? So let's have Dr. Gold come up first. We'll let him do his presentation. We'll do Q&A. Then after the program, if anybody has any further questions for Lisa, you can take it out in the hallway afterwards, okay? All right? Because we know that she could have a lot more questions here. And thank you again.